Welcome, everyone. We're so excited that you have joined us here for a discussion of coded bias. We just exceeded 500 people registered for the film series, which is amazing. And I know I've seen people sharing the watch link and code pretty widely, even without registering. So I think that might really be, underestimating the number of people who are being able to see this film right now. And we've asked people how many people are watching with them. Someone answered 150. I don't know if they're doing some kind of like group watch of it in a class or something like that. But this film feels so profound and important to me, like issues that are affecting all of our lives right now and will into the future, that I am so grateful for the opportunity to talk about it with you all. Thank you very much for joining us. I would like to introduce some of the amazing panelists that are here with us this evening. First, I would like to introduce my good friend, Yetunde Falajimi, who is an associate professor of computer science and networking at Wentworth Institute of Technology and the founder of the Geek Girls Collaborative. Yetunde and I met in 2016 when she invited me to come to give a talk in Ibadan, Nigeria at an ACM conference there. And we have been friends ever since. I was so impressed with the dedication she had to making all the details of that event go really right for all of her students and colleagues. And she's a mighty woman for making, for standing up for people. Thrilled that she could join us. I'd also love to introduce Laura Grabowski, who is the chair of computer science at SUNY Potsdam. For those of you who may not be local, Clarkson University and SUNY Potsdam are in the same town of Potsdam, New York, and not too far away is another town, Canton, New York, where there's SUNY, the State University of New York in Canton, and St. Lawrence University. So there's the four associated colleges. And SUNY Potsdam and Clarkson, they're in the same small college town. I am a professor at Clarkson, but I've also been a student at SUNY Potsdam. I got a bachelor's degree in Spanish there in 2016 because I love Spanish. And I'm actually taking creative writing classes by times when I have time there. And we've done many things with SUNY Potsdam over the years. We organized Hack Potsdam events, kind of, hackathon events. And, they've come over to our CS labs and we've come over to their ACM meetings. And so I'm really delighted that Laura could join us. She's played Coded Bias with her students well before this event. So I'm thrilled she's here to talk about that. And I'm really delighted that Lisa Blank can join us. Lisa and I just recently met, actually. So we've met in Zoom. We're COVID friends. We are part of a North Country computing educators group. So that includes people teaching computing in K-12 and at the university level. And she and I are actually working with a group of other folks to think about projects for middle school students related to the kind of things we're talking about here in Coded Bias. And so I'm really excited that she could join us. And Lisa, you've played Coded Bias for your students as well, haven't you?
Well, actually, I watched it myself, and I have recommended it to all of my STEAM area teachers to share with their students. So I unfortunately have not been in the Zoom meetings or classrooms when it's been shared, but I know it's led to a lot of rich discussions about the consequences of technology. We can get into those discussions more later. Yeah, definitely good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And Yetunde, have you played Coded Bias with your students? You have, right?
Yes, I played, though we couldn't play through everything, but I played with my students, Java students, object-oriented programming, and they were excited about it. I'm hoping that maybe they will be able to join, maybe one or two person will be able to join from that class, but I asked them to watch the rest of the film at their own time. And maybe if they are not able to join tonight, they can join any of the sessions this week.
Nice. I also played Coded Bias for one of my classes this semester. And I don't know if any of them are here. It's hard for me to watch the participants tab and and walk and chew gum at the same time. But if any of you are here, welcome for that. And then there are two of my amazing students here, Jackie Otala, who's a master's student and researcher in engineering science. She and I have been working together, and also with Izzy, who's my other student. Wave, Izzy, I'll get to Izzy in just a minute, on some projects related to the algorithms that control what messages are amplified in social media. So it's very much related. These closed algorithms that are having big impacts on our lives, and not a lot of accountability and transparency. And many things in social media are amplified illegitimately by fake accounts, bot accounts, Russian trolls, all that kind of stuff. And we've specifically been studying the spread of COVID-related misinformation across multiple languages and multiple countries and other things. So that's been really cool. And Izzy Grasso is a senior data science student. She's going to be a PhD student at the University of Washington in the fall, which is amazing. I will miss her a lot. She got a very prestigious scholarship, the Goldwater. She's a Goldwater scholar, and she's been a member of my research team since 2018. We've published 3 research papers together. We have 2 more that are accepted already and are set to publish in April, and 2 more that are submitted, and we're waiting to hear about them. That's pretty darn good. And also, she will be a part of and one of the panels I am so excited about. I'm excited about them all, but there's one that has kind of a special place in my heart. We are going to be doing a panel on change I want for my daughter, or my mother, or my mentor, or my mentee, or my sister, or my friend, or my colleague. And she and I just had a really deep, long conversation, almost 2 hours, about some of those issues. And part of those we're going to discuss in the panel, and part of it, I think we're going to release some video of our conversation to share with you all. So we're super excited about that. But tonight we're talking about coded bias, and I'm going to hand it over to Izzy to do something really fun with you all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Izzy. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to do a little exercise to get things started. Let's see. One moment. Okay. Here we are. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you should be able to see from the chat. There's a link you can go to. It says right here, www.menti.com, and use the code 6178-8506. And just, we want to hear about your first impressions of coded bias. So you should be able to type in keywords and send them in, and we'll start seeing a word cloud. And you should be able to submit up to 5 times. So if you have multiple impressions, feel free to add more than one submission. So we have preventable, unacceptable, concerning, scary. Let's see. Here we go. Scary has been amplified. Dangerous, justice, preventable, bias, inequality, racism, equity, complex, expected, concern for future, preventable, scary, bias. So yeah, I'll just keep this open for a minute or two while people finish up.
Or you could kind of leave it going, and maybe we can check it at the end of the time, or capture a final word cloud. I'd love to post the final word cloud from our discussion along with any materials. Thank you for Izzy for that. That was really fun. Maybe, do you want to unshare your screen for right now, and then we can share it again. We'll check back on it. Okay, so now we're going to get to some breakout rooms soon and have some questions we want you all to discuss with us. But before that, I really wanted to go around and let each of our panelists just say something that really struck them about the film or something that they noticed in playing the film with their students. I don't know, Laura, would you like to go first? Can I tap you?
Sure, I would love to go first. So to start with, hi, everybody. Very glad to be here tonight talking about a topic that I'm really deeply concerned about. I was able to have my students in our junior and senior level professional practice course watch this documentary last December when they were doing the wide screening in advance of some panel discussions at that time. We were lucky in that the film was available to be viewed right going into the students' final exam. It was interesting because many of the particular systems and failures of AI that are pointed out in the film were topics we had already talked about in the course of the class. So it was a very nice cumulative kind of experience. But the thing that the students really took out of it that I found really gratifying was that as computer scientists, it is our responsibility to take the lead in fixing this issue. So I was really pleased to hear those kinds of ideas and thoughts coming from the students. I did not have to tell them that. They understood that very clearly, and it hit home very deeply.
Thank you, Laura, so much. Yetunde, can I tap you next? You might be muted.
Yeah, sorry.
No
Hello,
way.
everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for having me. As I said earlier, I played the film to my students, freshman students that are taking a Java class. And before playing the movie, something was going through my mind that here was I about to play a movie to a group of students who are probably all going to be men, or boys. And there is possibly not even a girl among them because girls in my class are either maybe 1 or 2. And when they don't show up, that means there is no female in that class. And so I was already having a feeling of, is there not going to be a kind of implicit bias in what I was going to, and that is one of the major challenges that we are facing, because then I now spoke to myself that even as the professor, I was already having this implicit bias that maybe they are not going to accept it. Maybe they will not because it might not really affect them so much, but maybe because most of them are white and they are boys. And so I was already having that feeling. So I began to think about the feeling that every one that is affected will be having, and thinking about even the kind of experience I had growing up in Africa, where you see yourself struggling to survive as a scientist from the third world, and with a black skin and a female. So the odds are already against you. And now migrating to United States as a professor, and then one thing that struck me most, one of the things that really struck me was from the film, they taught, about in United States, there are, I didn't even know that before I got to know that by watching that film, that there are 9 companies in the world that are managing big data for facial recognition, and 6 of them are United States companies, 3 of them are China companies, and yet China has everything in place to detect faces, which these things still have their own bias. But even United States is the leader when it comes to technology, and we are still struggling with so many things regarding the system. So I was trying to blend this with what is happening in Africa, where there is even no information at all. There is information, but the information sparsity is it's almost not existing. And who is going to do this for us if we are not doing it? Because machine, as we already know, is guided by what they have. And if a child has never had a particular language spoken to that child in his or her life, there's no way the child can speak that language. So that's what the machine is doing. It's just learning from what it has in its with the data set that it's given. And in Africa, we don't even produce data. We don't even, because the resources are not there. In developed nations in the most developed nation of the world, where the resources are more than enough, it is not being utilized the way it should be utilized. People should hear us out. I mean, know that everybody is important. Everybody's identity is important. Whether you are a woman, even if you are the only woman in the community, you are a human being and you deserve, your data and everything deserved to be part of the system. And now, from a global point of view, what about people that don't even have access to this technology? People that don't have bandwidth, people that can't even, like Gina and I, a while ago, when he came visiting Nigeria and he saw some of those things, we were talking about looking for opportunity by which you can make data locally available for the people, because people are smart, especially the women. They want to work, they can multi-process and everything, but they don't have the bandwidth. And sometimes students want to do research. It takes them a whole day to download 1 gigabyte of data. And when they are almost going to take a deep breath and say it is over, the link is broken and they have to start again the following day. So such frustration, we're looking at, okay, if this data is available to people locally, so that instead of, so that people can be given this data maybe in a flash disk or CD or somewhere where they can just go to a library and get the data. But another thing is that there is a lot of politics where people are still afraid of even keeping their data somewhere. So there is, so I was thinking, it's not even the bias alone, but there is a lot of things militating against people like me. And I was happy when I got to know about this this panel, and I really wish United States, the developed nations of the world, should step up, should know that the minority is very important. The minority view, the minority. When I was growing up, I never knew that I would migrate to United States. Now here am I, and contributing to data, contributing to machine learning, contributing to the resources. But my own data is almost not existing within the system. This is very important, because this will make me fulfilled that while I'm working hard to work on machine learning, I also know that my representation, my image is also part of the data, part of the system. It's very important, and we cannot stop, we cannot shy away from it.
Thank you so much, Yetunde. Thank you so much. Lisa, can I tap you next?
Sure. A few weeks ago, I was pretty fortunate to see from the University of Texas, Austin, through their Girls Engineering Week, they had both Coded Bias and Picture a Scientist available. So when Gina said, hey, I'm going to have these films available, I was really excited. So I have shared them twice now with our school community. I'm not directly teaching any classes, but I work with a lot of teachers and I work with a lot of students in my summer STEM camp. So I'm actually hoping that we get some opportunity to use the film maybe in the summer at some point with those kids that I have for my summer STEM camp, because I found it just really outstanding. I think it helps wake people up. We have been so comfortable for so long with our technology. Our technology brings us Netflix and all these wonderful things that kind of pacify us during this COVID time, right? Everybody's kind of lulled into this comfort. And in the meanwhile, our world, the use of that technology is really going places rapidly that are very concerning. And people really need to wake up. Gina and I had we're part of an interesting conversation about this, thinking about K-12. And where does that conversation go in K-12? A lot of that deals with what's happening in the media. It makes people very nervous because it bumps up against politics. And that's something that schools want to avoid because you start getting an angry community. But on the other hand, I'm so concerned that if we don't have those tough conversations, what does the future hold for our kids? In terms of the biases, in terms of just in general, you think about society over time, long running history, we've been free for a long time. Freedom is not a normal thing over the history of the world. And where might this lead us? So I do think we need to take it very seriously from the bias perspective, from our personal liberty perspective, and really think about it and make kids aware so that they can understand what's happening themselves and make informed decisions about their future as they're voting, making policy decisions, working for companies, etc. It's just really critical. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Jackie, can I tap you next?
Yes, yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Jackie. And I think, the movie was unbelievably interesting, of course. But I'm relatively new to computer science. I did not do computer science in my undergrad. It's really only starting into my graduate school that I'm getting kind of a deep dive. And I knew that there was bias. And I knew that, a program is only as smart as the programmer who made it. And so I think I initially thought that there's some dumb, like, racist programmers out there, and they're just making these terrible algorithms, and that does exist. But it's also just, it can be a smart programmer and a biased data set. Like, the data set itself can produce bias, and that was relatively new to me. I kind of came in with this notion that it's bad programmers, but it's also just purely bad data. And as someone who is starting to build algorithms and trying to create accurate models, do we want it to be accurate of the world today and the biases that are here today, or do we want it to be accurate of a world tomorrow? And so that was really shocking to me. And again, shifting my point of view of computer science in general and artificial intelligence.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That's great. Izzy?
Hi. There's so many things, but I'll say that one, I've been following Joy Buolamwini's work for a while now. I think you introduced me to her work. I think she's incredible. But I didn't know the history of where the Gender Shades project came from. So it was interesting to see that she had to, the fact that she had to put a white mask over her face for her face to even be detected as a face. I didn't know that project, the Mirror project, is where it all started. And I think that profoundly changed the way I saw her work, because I'm thinking about her poem, like, AI Ain't I a Woman? And it's really saying, like, the AI is not seeing her as a person and not recognizing her as a person. And I think, or a woman. And I think that is devastating. And I think that one other really, really, something that really, like, hit home for me was, and I think this is what Jackie is saying too, is the data is destiny. And I think we like to think of AI as this, like, futuristic thing, and people are most worried about, like, I don't know, some existential dread from robots, armies or something, and they don't realize that it's this, like, pervasive aspect of every decision in your life. Almost anytime you pick up your phone, like, if you're going to work, like, what route you take or how much you pay for, right, they said, like, toilet paper online or something, like, so I think the idea that we're not as forward looking as we think we are, and even where we are today is not good, and it looks like it's, I don't know. So I think that was something, like, that statement really jumped out at me.
Thank you, Izzy. I put a link to Joy's basically spoken word piece, Ain't I a Woman? It's not very long. It's incredibly powerful. If you haven't seen it, save that link for later and check it out. Well worth it. I'd like to echo just this thing about it's coming often from the data, not from deliberate programming of racism and sexism. If you think about it, do you think AI is futuristic, or do you think of it as incredibly conservative and rooted in the past? Most people think AI is like the future and super, and in a really crazy way, it's not. It is ingesting data from the past and predicting the future. And, the past is the best we have to learn from. We might as well learn from it, but it's a pretty ugly place. There's a lot of injustice in past data. And when algorithms say things like, who's been a CEO before? That's who we want to continue to be a CEO. Who's been a programmer before? That's who we want to forever to be programmers. Who's been nurses before? That's forever who we want to be nurses, or doctors, or engineers, or teachers. That is not a roadmap for the future we want. That is not a roadmap for opportunity for all the excellent qualified people. And, one thing that Izzy and I were talking about in our conversation recently is the incredible tax on our entire society when the excellent ideas and contributions that some people could make are silenced because of bias or harassment or assault or many things. We were talking about in each of our lives the constant tax we have felt. I think it's taken a very different, form maybe in our lives, but the tax idea is very much the same. And, you don't have to look far around you to see how we could be better off if we didn't refuse to listen to capable women, or we didn't refuse to listen to excellent Black people. Like, this is not okay. It's not okay individually, and it's not okay as a society, even if you just took a completely self-interested view of what would be good for our society. So, all right. Thanks all the panelists for going around and starting off our conversation. I'd like to open it up with one question for all of us. I didn't get as organized as Izzy to have a word cloud. So if people could type in the chat, I'd love it. And I'll look in the chat log. I want you to think about the platforms and algorithms that you think really do impact your life directly, or the decisions you make, or the decisions that are made about you. I'll put a few out there. Like, I use Google Maps to drive from place to place when I don't know where I'm going, or, the how Facebook chooses a feed of things to show me, or Twitter. Can folks just think a little bit about what algorithms you think do affect you, and put that in the chat? I'll pause just a second, or if anyone would like to unmute and talk about something that affects them.
Gina, I'm just interested when you're thinking about stopping the recording. I remember you doing that.
Oh, right. Yeah. Good point. How about now? That's a great, thank you, Chris. I've been saying over and over again to please help me remember things. I'm going to stop the recording now.